she is winning the battle. She does, yeah, she doesn't remember, but because we're letting her get away with it, the situations are going to keep going on.
And I can see your point where she would be thinking about maybe she would be like winning the battle, or again maybe it could be something medical. I'm not putting it past her not to do that, but I want it to be at least something medical related, because I wouldn't want to think my mother would be very conniving like that.
Exactly.
She's my mother.
Exactly. Yes, you want to make sure that, you want to be sure about it,
Yeah.
right? You don't want just to say, oh yes, my mom doesn't like honey, or right?
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's just very confusing at times, and it's very conflicting sometimes about some thoughts, here and there.
It's because this didn't happen a year ago, right?
No.
And at the same time, she was not living with you either.
No.
So you can tell. You cannot tell if how she really was, or how she really was feeling towards Annie. But now she's in your house.
Yeah, she's in there. She's living us full time. So we'll we're, like I said, we're taking it one day at a time with our sessions. So and we are. I think we're making some improvements. Areas for even better opportunities. But I think we are making progress. Hopefully, in the long run.
So I have a question for you, Josh. How would you feel if Annie would have invited her mom to live in your house with you guys, and this situation was happening? Instead of being your mom, it's her mom, and you're dealing with criticism about how you perform, how you discipline your kids, how you cook, how much salt the lasagna has, or why you don't make the lasagna like certain person, right? What would you say?
I probably wouldn't take it as lightly. It would always be a constant fight, because I tend not to run away from it. Because if I feel like if I'm being disrespected, then it would not be good, because it would be a constant battle. But I would still support her as much as I would. I would probably hate it, and I can see where Annie, would maybe not hate my mom, but have a very disdain for her. And I hate to think it like that, but that's more or less probably what it would end up being like, because I would have disdain for my mother-in-law. And that's a very dark side that I don't like talking, but it would be there. It would be like the elephant in the room. It just wouldn't feel good. And I guess I would say I want to sympathize with Annie with it, but I guess I'm not fully there, because she has my mom and not hers. But it would not be good if the roles were reversed.
Do you think you would argue with Annie's mom? You would talk back to her, or you would?
More than likely, I probably would, but then it wouldn't get anywhere, and then I would probably just either end up leaving or just forget about it altogether, because it would affect everybody like it does now. I'm the type of person who would hold said emotions in at a certain time, and then I would probably maybe go off on her in an unpleasant way. No physical harm, just saying what's really on my mind. And I'm surprised Annie hasn't done that yet, but she tends to again keep that to herself, but she is talking more about it. And we would argue more probably if the roles were reversed. Then probably would still be the same point. Maybe not so much improvement as we have now. Because I would say that she's a stronger person than I am. And that's the way it's always been. So it would be a pretty picture.
So you really appreciate what Annie's doing.
I mean, of course I do. I mean, I turn our lives upside down. And she's always supporting me in what we've done. How many crazy it might be. It's like she's my rock, and she just keeps a level head when I don't.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So I can see that you were giving her some sympathy, and you're empathetic with her, and you are aware of the situation. And what do you think you can do to make things better?
Well, I mean, like I said, I've been coming home more often, more than I have now. And again, she understands if I have to stay, I have to stay. And I've been talking to my mom more, either that or just dropping it. Maybe I shouldn't. But I think that for the most part, I want to say we're in a good place as far as handling her. Because, like she said earlier, Annie, that she is more cordial towards her. And when I do see the fights, I'm not letting it go by like I used to. I direct her and, either letting it go. Maybe I shouldn't let it go so much more. But I think we're on the right path to where we're going to be.
Do you think that if we asked George's brother and sister to be more involved with the family, it would be better for Grandma? Like maybe taking Grandma like for the weekend, or like for a day out. That way, it would give me
Well, I mean, we'll go baby steps. Not the weekend. We'll go for a day out.
a day out maybe. Yeah. Do you think it would be better for Grandma?
Remember how Arlene felt about having Grandma for how many days? 2 days?
Yeah.
So Arlene seems to handle Grandma for a day, probably.
Yeah.
And Grandma feels comfortable with her, right?
Yes.
She likes to be with them. I think it's up to Grandma. To follow up with those decisions. You can present those decisions to her and those ideas, and then she can make a decision for herself.
So, do you think it would
What
be?
do you think?
Do you think it would be a good approach of maybe not just to ask her and just kind of force her into it, or would that be bad?
And what do you think? How is she when she is being forced to do things, or
She doesn't like to be forced to do things. It's always on her terms. I think it'd be better if we asked her. Or maybe you can ask your brother and sister to come by the house, and then we can ask her all together. That might be better.
Yeah, that sounds like something that we can do. Okay. Maybe something we can work on. Maybe we just whenever we can all meet. So we don't have hectic schedules, So I think we can make that happen.
so the idea would be that your brother or your sister can come over to your house, and then they would invite Grandma
Yeah.
somewhere.
A day out,
A day out.
dinner, like you said, small steps.
Yeah.
Maybe dinner or breakfast or something like that.
Yeah, I could go with that.
Yeah. I think
Right.
she'd like that.
And you think she will be safe? with them.
Of course, I mean,
Right.
you know, they would be safe. I wouldn't have any concerns about that. You know, as long as it's not for more than maybe a couple hours, then I think after that it would be very critical of how she feels. If she's not in her safe surrounding that she gets used to after a while. So I think she would be fine for a couple hours, and then maybe wait till like a weekly thing, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, guys. Yeah, I think that if you think that that would work for you and that would work for her, that's a good idea, and I think that you could try that. Why not? Yeah.
Something we can try for this coming week. We can contact your brother and sister.
Okay, we'll go ahead and see where they're at.
Okey-dokey.
Maybe you can take that time while she's somewhere else. You can spend time together. You know, that would be awesome. You know,
The
maybe.
dinner we missed.
Yes, the dinner you missed. Just the time, the two of you. Yeah, that would be great. So